speak of sexual attraction, most imagine it to be a matter of chemistry. A biological instinct that binds two people in a union of pleasure or procreation. Yet beneath the surface of biology lies a truth so dark, so elusive, that most recoil from it instinctively. I tell you today that sexual attraction is not merely about the body, nor about the continuity of the species. It is a revelation of the unconscious, a mirror of the hidden psyche, and often a theater where the shadow enacts its most powerful dramas. To understand this is to stand at the threshold of the deepest mysteries of the human soul. For in every attraction there is a hidden story, and in every story there is the voice of something that was repressed, forgotten, or feared. Let us begin not with morality, but with the language of symbols. When you find yourself irresistibly drawn to another, when their presence seems to ignite a fire in your veins, you are not merely responding to the contours of their body or the tone of their voice. You are responding to an archetype awakened within you, a figure that has always been there in your depths, waiting for embodiment. The Greeks knew this well when they spoke of Eros, not only as a god of desire, but as a cosmic force that binds together the fragmented pieces of the world. Sexual attraction is not trivial. It is the trembling of the soul before its own incompleteness. The person who stands before you is not only themselves, they are a carrier of your forgotten half, the reflection of your inner image, the Anima or the Animus, clothed in flesh. But this is where the darkness begins to reveal itself. For the image that you fall in love with is not theirs alone. It is yours. It is your inner figure projected outward in that fiery moment of attraction. You are not seeing them as they are. You are seeing yourself, your longings, your wounds, your shadow, and even your divine potential reflected in the stranger's face. And thus begins the dangerous confusion between reality and projection, between soul and body. Sexual attraction becomes one of the most powerful ways in which the unconscious seizes us, drags us into its depths, and forces us to confront what we have denied. That is why attraction is so overwhelming. It is not about the other person at all. It is about the archetypal drama that is being reawakened within you. Consider the dreamer who comes to me and says, I cannot stop thinking of her, though I barely know her. It is as if she haunts me in my sleep. What is this haunting? It is not simply lust, not mere fantasy, but the soul projecting its missing piece onto a vessel who now walks the earth before him. The dream may show her as a goddess, or as a seductress, or as a veiled figure leading him into a labyrinth. These are not random images. They are the dramatization of his own psychic struggle. The woman is not only a woman, she is the Anima. She is his own inner world seeking integration. Yet if he does not know this, he will pursue her with desperation, believing that only her embrace can heal his longing, when in truth it is the embrace of his own soul that he craves. The darkest truth about sexual attraction is that it is often a mask for shadow possession. What you desire in the other may be precisely what you have banished in yourself. The man who craves wildness in a woman is often the one who has repressed his own instinctual life, chained by a rigid upbringing, fearful of his own chaos. The woman who longs for power in a man may be seeking the strength she never dared to awaken within herself. Thus, attraction becomes a way for the psyche to force the repressed into the light but it does so in the most tormenting manner, for instead of recognizing it as one's own, we demand it from the other, and in doing so, we bind ourselves to illusions and frustrations. We make the other carry the burden of our unlived life. I tell you, there is danger here. When you are seized by sexual attraction, you are not merely experiencing desire. You are standing before a psychic abyss where the boundary between you and the unconscious grows thin. If you enter blindly, you risk being consumed, enslaved by passions that have little to do with love and much to do with possession. That is why so many are destroyed by their attractions, why they chase impossible loves, why they are entangled in toxic affairs. It is not because they are weak or foolish, but because they do not realize that the attraction is not only about the other, it is about the self they have not met in myth. This drama is everywhere. Think of Paris and Helen. Was it Helen's beauty alone that burned Troy to the ground? Or was it the archetype of the divine feminine projected onto her, so powerful that no man could resist? In her face, they saw not a woman but the goddess Aphrodite herself. And in that illusion, kingdoms fell. So it is with us. We mistake the archetype for the person, and in doing so, we hand over our fate to powers far greater than we can control. Attraction then becomes not simply a private matter, but a destiny written in symbols, a confrontation with forces that demand we either awaken or perish. The unconscious is not sentimental. It does not care for our comfort. It will use desire as a hook, a bait, a chain to pull us into the places we least want to go. You think you love the woman who wounds you, but in truth, it is your shadow that has chosen her, because through her you are forced to meet the wound you buried in childhood. You think you desire the man who is dangerous, but in truth, it is the Animus in his destructive form demanding that you face your own unclaimed power. Do you see? The attraction itself is not wrong, but it is never innocent. It is always charged with the energy of the unconscious. And unless you approach it with awareness, it will become your master. I once said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Sexual attraction is perhaps the most volatile of all these reactions, for it is fueled not only by instinct but by archetype, shadow, and projection. It is alchemical fire, capable of transmuting lead into gold or reducing the vessel to ashes. The question is not whether attraction is good or bad, but whether you are willing to see through it into the deeper truth it conceals. The darkness lies not in the attraction itself, but in our blindness to what it truly means. The psyche is endlessly creative in disguising itself. It will make you believe you cannot live without someone, when in truth it is your own unlived life calling to you. It will show you beauty where perhaps there is none, because beauty is the symbol of the soul's longing for wholeness. It will bind you to the most unsuitable partner, because only through that suffering will you confront what you have denied. Sexual attraction, then, is a trickster. It is Mercurius in his erotic form, leading you into chaos so that you might find order. But if you worship the image blindly, you will never find the treasure. It will vanish, and you will be left with nothing but ashes. This is the darkest truth. Attraction is not love. It is the summons of the unconscious, calling you into confrontation with your own shadow and your own archetypes. If you mistake the call for the caller, you will be lost. But if you can hold the tension, if you can look beyond the person into the mystery being revealed, then attraction becomes a path of transformation. It becomes an initiation into the deepest mysteries of the soul. To desire another is, in the end, to desire oneself for the other is only the mirror. What you long for is not their body, nor their voice, nor their presence. You long for the lost part of yourself that they awaken. And if you have the courage to claim it, you will no longer be a slave to desire, but a participant in the sacred drama of individuation. You must understand that the force of sexual attraction does not come from the surface of the personality, but from the deepest strata of the unconscious. It is as if ancient rivers flow beneath the crust of consciousness, and when they break through, they flood us with an intensity we can scarcely withstand. You meet a stranger, exchange a glance, and something erupts within you like a forgotten dream. How could it be that in a single instant you feel as though you have always known them, as though fate itself has orchestrated the meeting? It is not fate in the ordinary sense, it is the psyche remembering itself, recognizing its own image mirrored in the other. In that recognition lies both ecstasy and terror. The terror arises because the unconscious demands more than mere enjoyment. It demands a transformation. To be seized by attraction is to be pulled toward the crucible where your shadow waits. That is why attraction can feel so dangerous, so consuming. It is not only the promise of pleasure, but the threat of dissolution. The ego trembles because it senses it may not survive intact. When you fall into the arms of your own unknown depths, and in those depths lurks everything you have denied. Thus, the one who attracts you may seem to embody both salvation and destruction, and you cannot decide whether to flee or to surrender. Think of the dream where the beloved appears clothed in light, only to transform into a monstrous figure moments later. This is no mere nightmare. It is the symbolic truth of attraction. The angel carries the demon within, and the demon hides the angel's wings. You desire them because they embody your unlived light, but the unconscious never reveals its treasures without also confronting you with its darkness. That is why relationships born of overwhelming attraction often swing between extremes of adoration and despair. The psyche is showing you the polarity within yourself, projected outward so that you cannot ignore it. I have seen men destroyed by their Anima, not because she appeared in her nurturing form, but because she seized them in her devouring aspect. They adored a woman not for who she was, but for what she symbolized, and when she failed to match the archetype, rage and despair consumed them. I have seen women tormented by their Animus, falling for men who embodied authority or brilliance, only to find themselves enslaved by tyranny or betrayal. This is the danger of projection. When you project the god or goddess onto another, you hand them power no human can bear. You force them to carry your soul, and inevitably they collapse beneath the weight of the impossible image. What follows is not only heartbreak, but the bitter revelation that what you worshipped was never truly theirs. It was yours all along. This is why I speak of the darkest truth. Sexual attraction binds us to illusions crafted by the unconscious. The beloved becomes a vessel for our own shadow, and we, blinded by longing, imagine we have found the missing half of our soul. But the unconscious does not give without taking. It draws us into relationships that mirror our deepest conflicts, ensuring that we cannot escape the work of individuation. The very person who captivates you is often the one who wounds you most deeply, because through the wound you are forced to see yourself. Desire, therefore, is the trickster's path to healing. It breaks you open so that you might encounter what lies beneath your carefully constructed mask. In alchemy, this process was symbolized by the union of king and queen, Sol and Luna, whose marriage was never peaceful. It was a conjunction born of fire, dissolving both substances in order to create the philosopher's stone. So it is with us. When attraction seizes you, you are thrown into the alchemical vessel, the ego is dissolved, the shadow emerges, and the flames of desire burn away illusions until something new may be born, but only if you endure. If you flee the fire, you remain trapped in endless repetitions, always chasing the same figure in different forms, always disappointed, always enslaved by the same unconscious pattern. Dreams often reveal this truth before consciousness can bear it. A man dreams of kissing a woman, only for her face to shift into his mother's. Another dreams of being pursued by a beautiful figure who suddenly transforms into a skeleton. These are not cruel jokes of the unconscious, but revelations of the archetypal truth. Attraction is never innocent. It is tangled with the primal figures of childhood, with the archetypes of life and death, with the mystery of creation itself. To deny this is to walk blindfolded into the fire. To see it is to begin the work of consciousness, to ask not, why do I desire her, but what in me has chosen her as the mirror of my soul. You see, the greatest mistake we make is to believe that attraction points us toward the other, when in reality it points us toward ourselves. The woman you cannot forget is the threshold to your own anima. The man who haunts your thoughts is the embodiment of your animus. They are guides, but they are also traps. If you cling to them as the source of your wholeness, you will forever be disappointed. But if you recognize them as messengers of your own unconscious, you begin to reclaim what you have projected. Then attraction ceases to enslave you and becomes a path of liberation. The unconscious does not waste its energy. If you are drawn to someone with unexplainable force, it is because something essential in you demands recognition. Perhaps it is your wildness, long suppressed by a life of order. Perhaps it is your tenderness, buried beneath a mask of strength. Perhaps it is your creativity, chained by fear. The other awakens it because you have buried it so deeply that only the shock of erotic fire could bring it to life. This is why attraction is often sudden, irrational, beyond reason. Reason cannot awaken the buried soul. But Eros can. He strikes with his arrow, and in the wound the unconscious flows forth. But beware, for just as Eros awakens, so too does Thanatos lurk nearby. Attraction binds love and death in a single knot. Why is jealousy so fierce? If not because it whispers of annihilation, why does unfulfilled desire feel like dying? If not because the unconscious reveals that the ego cannot survive the loss of its projection, To be consumed by attraction is to experience death in life, the death of certainty, the death of autonomy. You are no longer your own master. You are possessed, and possession is always a brush with death. Yet it is only through this symbolic death that new life may emerge. I tell you, therefore, do not flee from the darkness of attraction, but neither should you worship it. Hold it in your hands as you would a burning coal, with respect, with awareness, with the knowledge that it can both illuminate and destroy. Ask yourself, what part of me lives in the other? What shadow? What wound? What forgotten light? And when you find the answer, to begin the sacred work of reclaiming it. The other may remain or they may vanish, but the treasure you recover will never leave you. It will become part of your soul, and the attraction that once enslaved you will become the fire that forged you. The ancients spoke of love as mania, a divine madness. They were not wrong, for to be seized by attraction is to be taken out of yourself, drawn into the orbit of powers that are not entirely human. It is as if the gods still move through us, using our bodies as vessels for their dramas. That is why you must approach attraction with reverence. It is not merely yours. It is the movement of archetypal energies of the collective unconscious itself. To treat it lightly is to court disaster. To treat it with awareness is to step onto the path of individuation. This then is the deeper meaning of the darkest truth. Sexual attraction is not a private whim, but a summons to transformation. It is the soul's way of luring you into the labyrinth where your shadow waits. The beloved is both guide and deceiver, angel and demon, for they carry not only themselves, but the image you have projected upon them. If you can see this, if you can bear to strip away the projection and face what lies within, you will find that the attraction was never about possession or fulfillment. It was about becoming whole. When you begin to recognize that sexual attraction is never only personal, you start to see how it is woven into the great mythic fabric of humanity. It is not merely a matter of one individual desiring another. It is the echo of countless ancestral dramas replayed through you, every story of gods and mortals entangled in passion, every epic of forbidden desire, every legend of love that brings ruin or redemption. These are not distant tales, but mirrors of the psychic forces that seize you in your own life. You are not exempt from myth. You are its continuation, its living vessel. And when you fall under the spell of attraction, you are stepping into a role far older than yourself. Think of Persephone, drawn down into the underworld by Hades. On the surface, it is a story of abduction, but symbolically, it is also the drama of erotic pull. The soul irresistibly drawn toward its shadow, the descent of innocence into the dark realm of instinct and death. Attraction often feels like this descent. One part of you resists, fearing the loss of order and purity, while another part longs to surrender, to be taken into the depths where something primal awakens. In that tension you feel both terror and longing, because the unconscious always demands sacrifice before it gives birth to transformation. Or consider the story of Psyche and Eros, where love itself is hidden in darkness, where the beloved must never be seen by the light of consciousness. This is the truth of the unconscious. It hides behind veils, demanding trust, demanding surrender, until the ego dares to break the taboo. And when it does, the beloved vanishes because the projection has shattered, and what remains is the long journey of the soul toward true union. Is this not the very pattern of so many relationships? The intoxicating blindness of projection, followed by disillusionment, followed by the long labor of learning to love the other, not as a god but as a human being. Yet few endure this journey. Most flee when the god vanishes, not realizing that the disappearance is the beginning of real love. The moment when the archetype recedes and the person emerges, you see, the darkest truth is that the unconscious does not care for your happiness. It cares for your wholeness. Attraction, therefore, is not given to you so that you might be comfortable. It is given to you so that you might be shattered and remade. The beloved is chosen not for their suitability, but for their capacity to awaken what you have buried. That is why so often you are drawn to the one who wounds you. The wound is the opening, the scar is the initiation. Only through the fire of desire frustrated, betrayed, or denied do you begin to glimpse what truly lives within you. Many ask me, why am I always drawn to the same kind of person, even when I know they will harm me? The answer is that the psyche repeats the pattern until it is integrated. You are compelled toward the same figure again and again because the archetype remains unrecognized. The shadow remains unclaimed. It is not cruelty but necessity. The unconscious insists on completion, and it will torment you with attraction until you finally face what you have projected outward. Until then, you are a prisoner of repetition, confusing destiny with compulsion, mistaking the shadow for the beloved. And yet, within this darkness lies the seed of transformation. If you can hold the fire without being consumed, if you can endure the suffering of recognizing your own projection, then attraction becomes a sacred initiation. It is not the other who completes you, but the confrontation with yourself that they provoke. The alchemists called this the conjunctio, the sacred marriage. But they knew that before the marriage could occur, there must be dissolution, the breaking down of all false forms. So it is in the life of the soul. You meet the other, you are shattered by desire, you suffer the disillusionment of projection, and in the ashes you discover something new, not the God you thought lived in them, but the God who has always lived in you. This is why I tell you, to love another truly, you must first reclaim your projections. Only then can you see them as they are, no longer as the carrier of your anima or animus, but as a human soul walking beside you. Until then, you do not love them. You love the archetype you have cast upon them. And this, too, is why sexual attraction is so dangerous. It convinces you that you know the other, when in truth you know only your own unconscious. You worship the image, and when the mask falls, you are left with despair. But if you can bear the falling of the mask, you will begin to see the person, and in that seeing lies the possibility of love that is not projection but presence. The collective unconscious does not play small games. It moves through you with the weight of millennia. When you feel that irresistible pull toward another, you are not only experiencing your own desire, but the echo of countless ancestors who burned, who sacrificed, who were torn apart by eros. It is the same power that compelled kings to wage wars for beauty, that drove poets to madness, that made saints wrestle with temptation. To imagine that you can simply dismiss it with rationality is to underestimate the gods. Rationality is but a thin crust upon which the volcano erupts. What you must do instead is learn to stand before the eruption without running, to let it show you what it must show, and then to transmute its fire into consciousness. The shadow, of course, is always near. Attraction awakens not only the light of beauty, but also the darkness of possession. Jealousy, obsession, and violence, these two are phases of the unconscious. Do not believe that your attraction is pure. It carries within it the serpent as well as the dove. To ignore the serpent is to let it strike from the shadows. To acknowledge it is to begin to master it. When you feel jealousy rise like poison in your veins, do not imagine it is the beloved who has caused it. It is your shadow revealing your fear of abandonment, your hunger for control, your terror of death. The beloved has only awakened what was always there, and if you have the courage to face it, you may begin to loosen the chains that have bound you since childhood. Childhood, yes, because here lies another layer of darkness. Your attractions are never free of your earliest bonds. The unconscious chooses its mirrors from patterns etched long ago. The face you find irresistible may carry echoes of a parent's tenderness or cruelty. The voice that soothes you may echo the lullabies you once heard in your cradle. The gestures that torment you may replay the wounds of your upbringing. This is why attraction feels fated. It is the psyche reenacting its earliest dramas, demanding resolution. Until you see this, you will remain entangled, believing that fate has brought you together, when in truth it is the compulsion of the unconscious replaying what was never healed. This is why dreams are so essential. They strip away the glamour of projection and reveal the archetypal truth. A dream may show your beloved as both lover and executioner, as mother and temptress, as father and tyrant. In this doubleness lies the key. The beloved is not only who they are also the vessel of your unconscious, carrying both light and shadow. If you can read the dream, you will see what the waking mind cannot. You will see that your attraction is not a simple matter of chemistry, but a revelation of your soul's unfinished work. So, I ask you, what is it that you seek when you are drawn to another with such intensity? Is it their body, their face, their presence, or is it your own forgotten life, your own shadow, your own unlived light? If you answer honestly, you will see that what you desire most is not them but yourself, reflected through them. And once you see this, you begin the journey of taking back the projection, of integrating the shadow, of reclaiming the anima or animus within. Only then can you approach the other, not as savior or destroyer, but as a fellow traveler, another soul, carrying their own burdens, their own archetypes, their own darkness. The work of individuation is not a rejection of attraction, but its transmutation. You do not deny desire. You allow it to reveal you. You do not flee from longing. You trace it back to its source. You do not idolize the beloved, you honor them as the mirror of your unconscious, and then you return to yourself. In this way, attraction becomes not a prison but a path, not an enslavement but an initiation. It leads you through suffering, yes, but also toward wholeness. And in the end, that is the only love worth having, the love born not of projection but of consciousness, where two souls meet not as gods and slaves but as equals. And now we must approach the final threshold, the point where attraction reveals its deepest secret. For beneath the masks of beauty, beyond the intoxicating projections of the Anima and the Animus, beneath the primal pull of instinct and shadow, there lies something even more ancient, more terrifying, and more sacred. The truth that sexual attraction is bound up with death and rebirth. To desire another is to stand at the very edge of mortality, to sense that something within you must die if something greater is to be born. And this is why attraction shakes you to your core. It is not only about joining bodies, nor even about uniting souls, but about submitting to the mystery of transformation that forever unites Eros and Thanatos, love and death. Consider why jealousy feels like annihilation. It is because the ego senses that it does not truly own what it clings to. And in that recognition lies the shadow of death. Consider why unfulfilled desire feels like despair. It is because the psyche is not simply seeking pleasure, it is demanding that something within you die, so that something larger might live. To be consumed by attraction is to face the little death, the ego's terror of dissolution. But if you surrender consciously, the death becomes not an ending, but an initiation. It is the descent into the underworld where Persephone is taken, where Orpheus loses and finds, where Inanna is stripped of all she possesses before she rises again crowned with deeper power. These myths are not abstractions. They are your life, played out each time you are seized by passion. The unconscious is ruthless in its demand for wholeness. It will not let you remain who you were. It will send attraction like a storm to break your walls, to tear away your masks, to shatter the fragile constructs of your ego. And in the ruins, you will see the fragments of your soul, the shadow you denied, the archetypes you ignored, the child you abandoned, the God you forgot. That is why you suffer, not because attraction is cruel, but because it refuses to leave you untouched. It is the fire that burns away everything false until only the essential remains. And the essential is always greater, darker, and more luminous than you imagined. I tell you, then, do not seek to master attraction by repressing it, nor to indulge it blindly as if it were only instinct. To repress is to banish the God into the shadows, where he will return in monstrous form. To indulge blindly is to let him possess you, dragging you into chaos. The path is the narrow one. To enter consciously, to endure the fire without fleeing, to see through the mask without tearing it away too soon. It is the path of alchemy, where the opposites are not destroyed but held together until they transform in attraction. You are confronted with the highest and the lowest within you, the angel and the demon, the creator and the destroyer, if you can hold both without collapsing into either, you will begin to sense the sacred union, the conjunctio that lies at the heart of individuation. The sacred union is not the fantasy of perfect love, nor the bliss of endless desire. It is the moment when projection dissolves and you begin to love not an image, but a reality. When the God withdraws, when the goddess fades, when the beloved stands before you not as your anima or animus, but as themselves, fragile, human, wounded, luminous in their own right, that is when love begins. And it is in that moment that attraction has fulfilled its highest purpose. It has drawn you into the crucible, shattered you with its illusions, and then released you into the possibility of true encounter. You no longer demand that the other carry your soul. You carry it yourself, and in doing so, you are free to meet them as they are. But make no mistake, few reach this point. Most remain caught in the endless cycle of projection, disillusionment, and repetition. They flee when the God disappears, seeking a new vessel for their Anima, a new body for their Animus, never realizing that the only completion they seek lies within. That is why the world is full of broken hearts, endless affairs, restless souls chasing the next intoxication. They do not know that the true task was never to possess the beloved, but to integrate the projection. And until they know this, attraction remains a prison. It binds them to the wheel of repetition, enslaving them to the unconscious. But for those who endure, attraction becomes the most powerful path of individuation. For what force could be stronger than desire to pull you into the depths you would otherwise avoid? What flame could be hotter than passion to burn away the masks you cling to? In attraction, the unconscious has found its most irresistible lure. And if you follow the lure consciously, you will discover that the beloved was always a messenger. They came to awaken what you had forgotten. They carried your light and your shadow for a time, until you were ready to claim them. And once you claim them, you no longer need to worship or destroy the other. You can love them freely, without chains. This is why I speak of attraction as initiation. It is the ritual by which the psyche forces you into wholeness. It is dangerous, yes, for the unconscious is not tame. It will wound you, deceive you, break you, and lead you to the edge of despair. But it will also show you the gods within, the archetypes that shape your destiny, the shadow that longs for light. And if you survive the initiation, you emerge not as the same person who fell in love, but as one who has been reborn. You stand taller, not because you possess the beloved, but because you have possessed yourself. Do you not see, then, why so many mystics spoke of union with the divine in erotic terms, why the Song of Songs sings of kisses, why the Sufi poets describe the beloved in intoxicated longing, why the mystics speak of the soul as bride and bridegroom. They understood that sexual attraction is not only human, but archetypal, a symbol of the soul's longing for union with its source. To desire another is, at the deepest level, to desire God, but to reach that truth, you must pass through the illusions of flesh and shadow, through the projections and the wounds, until you stand naked before the eternal. Then, and only then, does attraction reveal its final secret. It was never about the other. It was about the reunion of the soul with itself and through itself with the divine. And yet we must return to earth, for we do not live only in symbols. We live in flesh and blood, in the fragile bodies of men and women, in the trembling vulnerability of human love. To know the archetypal truth does not mean we escape the human drama. We will still feel jealousy, still long, still lock, still risk heartbreak, but we will feel it with awareness. We will know that beneath the storm lies meaning, that within the fire lies transformation. And in that knowledge, we are no longer slaves. We are participants in the great work of the soul. So I say to you, when next you are seized by attraction, do not ask only how to possess the beloved. Ask instead, what in me has been awakened? What shadow calls for recognition? What God demands my attention? What wound seeks to be healed? And in asking these questions, you will turn desire into consciousness, lust into initiation, attraction into individuation. The beloved may stay or they may leave, but the work will remain, and through it you will become more whole, more human, more divine. This is the darkest truth about sexual attraction, that it is never only about the other, but always about yourself. It is the unconscious drawing you toward the fire, demanding that you die and be reborn. It is the shadow calling, the Anima or Animus reaching the archetypes moving through your veins. It is danger and salvation, madness and wisdom, destruction and creation bound together in a single force. And if you can endure it, if you can see through its illusions without rejecting its power, then attraction will no longer enslave you. It will liberate you. It will lead you to the threshold of the self, where all opposites unite, where love is no longer projection but presence, no longer possession but freedom. And there, at last, you will know that the beloved was always both within and beyond you, a mirror of your soul and a reminder of the eternal mystery in which we all live, move, and have our being